Hey, it's Matty J. How are we doing today? It is raining here, absolutely ticking on down. And we are about a week away from summer. And it got me thinking about seasons. And you kind of think, well, what are the seasons that we go through, right? And obviously there are the weather-based ones, right? Climate, how you feel, about the heat, the cold, new life, things dying. And it's an interesting feeling to recognise how your body is in each of those different seasons, right? And in the thought of that, the realisation that that's a more or less, like, call it a 3-month period. There's actually a lot that happens in that time. And in thinking about that, right, so I was thinking about obviously how we're coming out of spring into summer. The weather's meant to be getting warmer, but it's not. It's a bit turbulent. It's been raining for about 3 days straight. And so you sort of have this idea about what a season is. And, throughout it has ups and downs, right? Sometimes in summer it rains, sometimes in winter it's, really hot. And the thought that this period of time that is elongated to, I suppose, enable us to feel out the purpose of something to do within that time frame, really gets you thinking sometimes, right? Like, how do you measure life? Is it by days and years and time lived? Is it by accomplishments? Is it by milestones, whether you have kids and family, work promotions again, certain birthdays? A lot of this is personal, and a lot of it is built through the narrative theory that a lot of humans hold true to their lives. But if you sort of get down to it, and again sort of linking in with the seasons of life that we're in, you are an ever-changing individual. You'll have sets of principles and values probably stay with you your whole life, but the phrases that you use, people have catchphrases, people have go-to statements. Sometimes they change over time, right? They change with what's funny, what's happening culturally, with who your mates are at that certain time of your life. And the thought that you have a somewhat floating identity on a fixed set of values and principles is interesting, and how adaptable and how malleable that is to the changing of the seasons. And so, I kind of almost feel like there's, like, at least in how I view things, sort of like six seasons a year, right? They're all sort of a couple months each, right? And you might have, obviously a bunch of those that are fixed straight into a season, with then a day here or there, a month here or there that's sort of at the transitional season, and then a fixed season. So if you kind of think of it like, you've got your fixed season, first couple, months of summer, right? You have an idea about what it's going to be like going to the beach, or how you're going to, manage your workout regime, how you're going to manage your diet over Christmas, New Year's, or, obviously if you're on the other side of the world, how you're going to manage, this time off between school and uni and whatever else that it is that you look at doing, right, during this time off, or this allocated time of the summer months. And then you sort of get maybe to the end of the summer and you start looking into the autumn and you start changing gears. sort of like a bit of a, all right, so we've had this big, long understanding of who I was over, this past year and this summer, and, it's all sort of coming to a head, and now we're gearing up for this next year ahead of us. And you sort of move into that season. And the clothes you wear change slightly. Your attitude changes somewhat. How you talk to other people, what you focus on, all of that sort of changes, right? And then you move on through to the next sort of stage where you're in the midst of it. It's like, okay, yeah, we're fully in this new year. We're fully in this new phase. We're in this new stage. We're obviously a couple months gone past of summer finishing, and we're in the midst of autumn, and actually, it's the new footy season, or sporting season, or work's sort of gotten into the full swing of things, and you still sort of think, there's lingering memories of what the summer was, of who you were last year, and you sort of take stock as to, okay, well, what is this year going to be? What are we thinking about this year, right? And then that goes by, and you sort of get into that next transition period between, okay, we know that we're in this year, great, that's been established, what are we doing now? And you're in that transition between the autumn to winter sort of phase, and you think, okay, your clothes are changing again, your workplace is done, daylight savings, whether you're in an area that has that or not, that's kicked in, and so now going from having those longer days where you can have those early morning walks and those late night strolls in the nice bright days, that's gone, and you're into much shorter, sharper, less daytime, make hay while the sun shines. Maybe you're very productive, maybe you're less productive in winter, but you realise, okay, actually I have a different productivity cycle than I did 2 or 3 months ago, or 6 months ago. And if you're actually able to sort of check in with yourself and know your season, you can learn a whole lot more about who you are as a person, how you operate, how life works around you. And again, that understanding that, okay, the seasons are going to change. Hopefully your values, your principles, what you build your life on, the parameters of who you are, how you make decisions, your process for making decisions, your process for living life, for picking friends. Hopefully that more or less stays the same. But then there's the adaptability, the adaptations, or adaptability rather, of who you are as a personality. Whether you're more playful, more strict, more lenient. All of that has sort of micro variations throughout the seasons. And again, the physical seasons are a great way to sort of look at this as an example. But to extrapolate that learning and put it sort of out there to say, there's also, of course, every fact that there's milestone changes, or stuff going on in your narrative that you sort of think, okay, is this time-based and seasonal-based on the actual weather, or is it based on, who am I in a relationship with, or who am I not in a relationship with? How are things going at work? How am I going financially? If you're in a fruitful financial season, does that change your spending habits? Does that change, how often you're going out? Does that make you a more open personality because you feel like you're not under as much stress? Are you in a season full of lots of stress, or are you in a season full of prosperity and gratitude? And it's a hard thing to measure, right? Because it's not tangible. You can look at a calendar, you can look outside, and you can say, okay, well, we're at this time of year, or, the time of year that everyone agrees it is, and the Earth is doing this, being hot or being cold or being, nourishing or killing things. Is the greenery green, or is it, brown and dying, discoloured and wrong looking? And that is pretty easy to see and to put a finger onto. But to recognise how you feel and recognise how you operate within this space, within your head, within this part of society, this little corner of the world that you've been blessed to have been put into. To recognise your season and to know your season is definitely a skill. And it's my method for doing it right is daily check-ins. Actually thinking what kind of a season am I in, and try to put parameters around the different types of seasons that that you recognise that exist in your life. Is this a season of prosperity? Are we in a season of productivity? Are we in a season of relaxation and doing nothing? Reaping what we sow. Are we in the period of sowing? Are we in the period of doing? Or are we in the period of understanding, learning? And yes, you should always learn, you should always grow, you should always do something. But there are different elements that go into pushing forward on that. Do you do it harder? Do you do it faster? Do you do it quicker? Do you do it longer? Do you burn out? Do you do it bit by bit? And again, there are different versions of yourself that go through different parts of that. And if you start to take stock in that, start to look at it, you realise that those different versions of yourself actually kind of clump up together. So there are times when you'll try to start a diet over and over and over again, and it'll be great. And there'll be times when you try to figure other things out over the course of due time, and it doesn't work out so great. And that's okay. That's all just a part of who you are in life, right? And learning to recognise the season that you're in, if there's any bit of advice I can give, is to know what your season is. So start figuring out what some of those parameters are for you. Perhaps I'll need to, elaborate on this a bit later when I'm maybe not driving, maybe when I'm sitting down and can actually showcase, how I go through my method of figuring out what season I'm in, and explain it visually so that it's a bit easier to grasp than just sort of rambling on about looking outside the window to gauge the weather to see what season you're in. Just a thought I had to sort of figure out, do we actually take stock of where we are and how we measure things? And one of those ways of measuring things, as I said, is the season that you're in and recognising how to tell the seasons that you're in. So I'll leave it with you. You go and have a great day.